What's going on, guys? Zac Perna here, and on today's video I'm going to teach you guys why you're not gaining weight, how much weight you should be gaining. I'm going to show you a few recipes if you stick around to the end on really calorie dense foods, and basically at the end of watching this video you guys are going to know exactly why you might not be gaining weight and then how to gain weight. So I need to stop saying gaining weight. Let's get into this video. So before we get into the actual tips that I have for you guys today, let's talk a little bit about the context. So how much weight you should be gaining, a bit of things on expectations, how the whole process works, and what you guys need to know first off. So a lot of people say I'm not gaining weight because they really don't understand how much weight they should be gaining, especially if they're new to training. And the difficulty arises in that everybody's different. So some people can gain a lot of weight and it'll mostly be muscle. They might gain like 500 grams a week in their early days and they'll be like, sweet, this is awesome. And others might gain 500 grams a week and it's mostly fat and they'll feel like shit. So it's hard to put an exact number on it, on how much weight you should be gaining. But I'd like to recommend to people anywhere between 200 grams a week. That's gonna be relatively lean, but it's not gonna be 200 grams of muscle. So it's gonna be fat, water, so it's hard. On average, if you wanna do it quite aggressively, you can go anywhere from like 500 grams and under that. If you're gaining anything more than 500 grams a week, it's definitely gonna be mostly fat, which is not ideal. We don't really want that. It depends on what your goal is. If you just wanna literally put on weight, like if you're recovering from an eating disorder and you just need to put on weight, it doesn't really matter whether it's muscle or fat. If you just need to get that weight up to a healthy level, then that's fine. But those are the kind of the outliers, and most people watching this, I'm guessing, are just guys wanting to put on a little bit of muscle and wanting to maximize that. So there's one thing is to know that you might have unrealistic expectations of how much you should be gaining every week. I like to tell my guys, let's aim for around 300 grams a week. In my early days, I aim for 500, but I'm sure most people would just be putting on unnecessary amounts of fat in doing so. Now, to talk about why you can't put on weight. Now, there's a number of factors. There's food. You need to be in a calorie surplus to gain weight. It's just physics, which means you need to be eating more calories than you're burning, all right? There's recovery. You might not be recovering well enough to actually grow the muscle tissue that you want. And there's also training. You might not be training well enough to grow the tissue that you want. Now, we're gonna cover all of these today, okay? Including supplements, food, everything. But the main thing here is that energy imbalance where you need to be in a calorie surplus. Now, this requires you to eat a lot of food, obviously, and there's some little ways of making that a bit easier for you, and that's what we're gonna cover today as well. But basically, you guys have to know that you need to be eating a lot of food. Now, you might be thinking, well, can I increase my appetite? Is there ways of doing that? I've seen some supplements in the past that do this, but I really wouldn't buy into them. I mean, I don't really believe it. I think it's more of a placebo thing. Your appetite will increase as your body adapts to more food. Now, if you're eating, say, whatever you're eating right now, and you're just doing that, and that's your baseline, and that's normal, you're hungry, and you eat a certain amount of food every day, your body would pretty much hit a set point where you develop a bit of normality with it. It's homeostasis, you just kind of regulate. And what you have to do is shift that upwards in terms of like the amount of food that you're eating. So one way of doing this is just slowly increase your food. Now, if you go from a dieting phase to a maximum bulk phase, it's gonna feel like a crazy amount of food. But if you're just slowly increasing it, your body's gonna go, okay, a little bit more here, I'm getting a bit hungry. You'll get hungrier, it's just the way it is. When I'm super dieting, like, I mean, I'm not crazily dieting now, but I'm probably eating around 2,000 calories. My last crazy bulk was like 4,000. I think it was the most I've ever done, not the last one, but the most I've ever done was about 4,000, and I was hungry. In fact, I was probably hungrier then than I am now because my body was just used to that much food coming in. So I would say you can't really increase your appetite like immediately from the get-go, but what you can do is just slowly ease into it, add some food in, one little bit at a time, and optimize meal frequency. Now, everyone's different here. Some people, like one of my mates, Mitch, is an absolute pig. He'll literally have 3 giant meals a day. He's humongous, but he just prefers to have like 3 huge meals a day instead of 6 small meals evened out, or 7, or whatever, however you want to do it. Whereas me, I will get more food in if I split it up a little bit more. Now, it just depends on you. There is no right or wrong way of doing this. I would say 3 to 4 meals at least, and then I don't see the point of eating 14 meals a day. But this basically depends on personal preference, your ability to digest these foods, as well as just how you can squeeze them into your lifestyle. So that is kind of up to you guys, so ask yourself that question. And so to sum up that little intro bit, you need to be in a calorie surplus. I have a lot of people saying, no, you don't, you just need to be eating at maintenance, and I agree there, but maintenance isn't some one number that you can follow every single day. Maintenance is shifting, depends on what you're doing. You're living a different day. So your body's doing different things every day. So maintenance is more of like a spectrum, and you wanna be on the upper end of that, and even better on the surplus end if you really want to maximize it. So if you guys are here now and you can't put on weight, I wouldn't suggest you just eat at maintenance, okay? We need to be in a surplus. So with that being said, let's get stuck into the first tip on how to increase the calorie density of your foods. So my first tip on increasing the calories in your foods is to choose calorie dense foods. Now, obviously it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, right? Dickhead. But it's easier said than done. So a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, but I eat a heap of brown rice, I eat a heap of potatoes. And often they're eating really high volume foods that aren't that calorie dense. So easy way of doing this is to look for fats. So if you're looking at the macros in general, carbs and protein have about 4 calories per gram. Fats have double that and more at 9 calories per gram. So very easy way of eating more calories without feeling like you're doing so. So a few things you can do. Opt for fatty cuts of meat, all right? So say goodbye to chicken breasts, get chicken thighs. Fatty steaks, great. Salmon, awesome. And fatty beef mince as well. There's a lot of bro talk with bodybuilding of like keeping it low fat as if that means it's clean. If anything, clean is just lower in sugar in my opinion, because I'll say this now so I don't forget it. I really wouldn't recommend going crazy on sugar, okay? So if you have no other choice, do it, that's all right, just see how you go. But keep in mind, it's not great. If you're having way too much sugar, your pancreas is going, cheers mate, and you've just overloaded the hell out of it with insulin. So that's one way to become more insulin resistant, is going crazy with sugar. Especially if you're neglecting fiber as well, it's just not ideal, it's not healthy. In my opinion, there's heaps of people that will probably argue that, but go for it, I just don't think it's great. This is my YouTube channel. But basically, my point is, I wouldn't overload on sugar. Now that said, sugar still has its place because it's easy to get down. Now, here are a few other foods that I like. So nut spreads and peanut butter. Obviously very easy to get down. You can add these to anything. You can eat them on the spoon, you can just chuck them in smoothies, you can do whatever, but keep that in your house. This is another one that I personally like, raisin toast. If you get a brioche style raisin toast, it's like the easiest thing ever. Like I could probably have a loaf of this a day and it is just packed with carbs and calories. So it's, especially when you put butter on that, it's ridiculous. It makes life so easy. Another one is just oils. So coconut oil or olive oil are my two favorites, and you just put them in anything. You can cook with them, you can add them to your foods once they're cooked. You can put coconut oil in smoothies because it kind of has a bit of like a sweet taste. Really, really good. And another one is full cream milk. I mean, depends on how dairy intolerant you are, but it's just an easy way to add calories into like your shakes because it's more calories than water, obviously, and you get the fats in the full cream milk. Now, like I said, if you guys stick around to the end of this video, I'm gonna show you some actual recipes on very calorie dense meals that I use personally, and a few ways of going about that. So stick around to the end, but we're gonna move on now to training. So when it comes to training, there are two main tips that I would suggest for you guys. One is to progressively overload. So you have to make sure you're progressively overloading. You've probably heard this a lot. If you're unsure what it is, it basically means over time, progressively, you are adding more stress and you're adapting to more stress. You're overloading on weight or reps. So basically, there's a couple ways of doing this. You can either add more reps to your given weight. So let's say on a bench press, you're benching 60 kilos, you can get 10. So you can strive to add more reps. So maybe after a week, 2 weeks, you'll try to get 11, you'll try to get 12 reps. And then you'll keep doing that until you get to a point where you go, I'm getting 15 now, I can up the weight and then get a new 10. So then you might go 65 kilos for 10 after you've already got a few more reps in. So that's basically the way I do it. I'll be training and I'll go for an 8 or 10 rep, and then over time I try to get more. And once I get a few reps more, I'll increase the weight again, and then you got 10. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is just to go by weight. So let's say you're getting 60 kilos for 10. After, if you're feeling confident, you can go, okay, I'm gonna go 65 and get 7. Then you go 65 for 8, 65 for 9, and then try to get 10 that way. So basically it's just increasing reps. But with the goal in mind of getting better over time. A lot of people make the mistake in thinking that they have to do this like week by week, or if they don't beat it, they're dead. You just have to do it very slowly. And this is what's cool, is that you can see what factors of your lifestyle, so eating and recovery, is impacting your ability to do this in the gym. So if you're eating enough food and you're in a surplus, great, you've got that covered, but you're still not overloading and you still can't get stronger in certain things and you can't get more reps, maybe it's your recovery that you need to address. So maybe you need to address how you're sleeping, your stress, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that soon. That is really sick when you get into it, because you'll be like, you'll see for yourself, you'll be like, oh, cool, I just only fixed my sleep and now I'm all of a sudden getting stronger and recovering better. Awesome, right? So that's why it gets really fun. And just like I said, keep in mind, guys, it is so slow. But that said, you still want a gradual trend going upwards, okay? Now, you might get to a point where you feel just extremely burnt out and you're like, wow, I can't even do this anymore. I feel weaker, I'm going backwards. And that's where people can implement those deload weeks. So I do this kind of intuitively. I don't go, okay, here's my deload week and I'm not doing anything else. I will more like go, okay, I'm kind of feeling a little bit run down this week. I might just tone it down a little bit, not strive to go crazy, and I'll have this week of kind of a bit more relaxed, take a few more rest days. And again, even with the recovery, huge thing is how many rest days you're getting. Maybe throw in another one. There's guys that grow so much better when they have like 3-4 rest days a week, I've heard. I mean, 4 is probably a bit much. You have 6 rest days a week, but 3 rest days a week is probably on like the upper end of what people would be doing. And I have about 2 a week, and that for me is pretty good. But still, there's times when I need to throw in an extra one because I just can't recover. So be honest with yourself, you're not a machine. You can't just automatically recover from everything. If you're overloading, and that's great, awesome, but keep in mind, you need to not overdo it in the sense of give yourself time to recover. Now, the next thing when it comes to your training is your form. Now, this is very, very crucial, and I only really discovered this, well, the extent of it, when I was really into my training, probably 6 years into my training. And I worked with different people and I went, okay, wow, this is actually how I'm supposed to train. So in the beginning, it was all about moving weight from A to B, just get it up there, doesn't matter how it gets up there. And then the more I got into it, the more I learned about the importance of actual mind-muscle connection, squeezing the muscle you want, because you can keep overloading weights, right? And cheating yourself by doing pretty scrappy form. And one day your shoulder's gonna go. And then one day you're gonna get another injury and you'll be like, damn, I should have just lifted half the weight to get the same results. So exaggerations aside, obviously, there's a time and a place for a bit of scrappy form in your last few reps, but for the most part, guys, you wanna make sure that every single exercise is being performed basically like this. Slow, controlled negative, slight pause at the bottom so you can really emphasize the stretch and feel the stretch, and then initiate the squeeze with that working muscle, and then hold the squeeze a little bit. So when you squeeze, it doesn't have to be slow, but in the early days, I would recommend you guys actually slow it down. So ideally, you'll want a squeeze to be relatively fast because you want that contraction to be quick. So it's hitting those fast twitch muscle fibers. But in the early days, it's very hard to connect and do it quick at the same time. So I would recommend you guys have a month or whatever it is, tone the weight down, slow it down, and actually feel what it feels like to squeeze that muscle. So every time you're doing an exercise, think, squeeze up, hold the squeeze, can you feel it? Slow it down, control the negative, feel the stretch, and do it again. You'll see a lot of people that may train very scrappy, they might train like shit, and they'll look phenomenal. And this is because genetics are then basically everything. You could look at somebody who has amazing genetics, right? Compare them to somebody who has pretty average genetics. This guy can be doing everything right and nothing happens. This guy can just lift a weight, eat a block of cheese, and he'll look shredded and massive. It is insane how powerful genetics are. So that's why, guys, don't look at other people whose physiques you like or you want to emulate and think, what do you do? I used to do this all the time when I was younger. I'd be like, okay, what does this guy do for triceps? And if I found out he did little bitchy rope extensions with like one arm at a time and just got like 28 reps. And I was like, okay, I need to do that. That's not what's going to build my triceps, all right? I didn't have the best genetics, so I would have to actually put more time into it. I mean, some people have to work harder than others for the same physique. And in fact, some people can work as hard as they damn want and they will never get the physique that someone else has. I mean, we're all different. So don't be discouraged by that, guys, but know that nobody can get your physique just like you can't get anybody else's physique. Doesn't matter, just become the best version of yourself. That's what I've been saying like for ages. So that's basically it for the training side of things. To summarize that, make sure you're overloading, address the factors that are stopping you from doing that, and make sure your form is good. If you need help with form and training, my coaching app comes with me literally explaining every single way I do the exercises if you're confused. But essentially it comes down to that. It's a slow and controlled negative, a pause in the stretch, a squeeze up with intent, and a pause on the squeeze. Now, let's talk a little bit about supplements. Now, my next tip when it comes to gaining weight is on supplements. Now, a lot of people, when they want to gain weight, they immediately look to supplements first as if it's a quick fix. And I'm going to tell you that it's not a quick fix. It's like saying that raisin toast is a quick fix. They're going to help you. They're going to really help you. I take them every day, but don't think they're this holy grail thing. It's going to be crazy. But that said, they have a place. Definitely have a place. Now, my favorite ones that you will see results with is whey protein. If you're not getting your protein in, guys, you can forget about everything. I mean, when it comes to building muscle, you're going to build a lot of fat, but you need to hit your protein. So whether you want to have your shakes post-workout or at night or in the morning or whatever you want to do, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. What's important is that you hit your daily protein. Okay, so I remember I used to literally scull my protein shakes, just neck and post-workout thinking it was the anabolic window of peace. But what you can do is just have them whenever you want. Okay, so I would recommend whey protein. Now, if you get EHP stuff, they've got Oxywhey or Isopept. Isopept is a little bit faster in the digestion, so it is better for post-workout. But I really love Oxywhey vanilla. Like that is just, to me, is you guys know it's probably it's my all-time favorite. And you can use code ZAC10 as well if you want to check your discount. Again, creatine is really, really good. Now, creatine will help fill the muscle cell with water, essentially at its simplest form, but it assists in strength and size. So if you guys haven't tried creatine before, I would say give it a go. Anyone above the age of like 15 or 16, I'd say is fine. Again, there's a lot of random rumors on creatine that it causes hair loss and all this stuff. I haven't found any of that to be true. I don't even know where they came from, to be honest. Only thing with creatine, just make sure you're hydrated and you're drinking enough water, because it is pulling water into the muscle cell. So you do need to compensate with enough water, but creatine is great. Just around 5 to 10 grams a day. Doesn't really matter when you take it as well. Just be consistent. And next one is carb powders. So this is obviously an empty box because I've ran out. But what I have done in the past is supplement with carb powders during my workouts. Now this is good in the sense that it is one way of getting more calories in your diet, but secondly, it actually helps with the performance of your workout. So I found when I have carb powders during my sessions, my energy is a lot better, I can go for a lot longer, I feel like I'm a lot stronger, the pumps are better. So I really like them, but I also have got pretty fat in the past when I was having them, so whether that was just because I was at the peak of the bulk or I don't know what it was, but I'm not going to attribute that to carb powders, but still I would recommend them, especially because it's so easy, guys. You can just chuck them in your BCAAs or in your drink and just sip on them during the workout. And if you want recommendations, I would suggest the best one, cluster dextrin. Any brand, I guess, is fine. This is just going to be a very well tolerated carb in terms of your digestion. You're not going to really feel sick. If you want a cheap one and just want to try it, I'd recommend maltodextrin first. That's basically just any carb. Most people might get a little bit of like bloating with this, but if you don't and you think it's fine, then save your money, grab that. Otherwise, guys, I really wouldn't suggest too many other supplements. Pre-workouts are optional. If you want to train without a pre-workout, that's fine. I've always trained with one. I think it helps my performance, but I'm not going to say that pre-workouts are going to help you build a lot more muscle. It's just because that's just going to affect your workout quality. So indirectly, yeah, but I'd say these are my main ones in terms of performance and recovery. And if you're thinking about weight gainers, I wouldn't recommend them as much because I feel like they're just more marketing than anything else. And they will just use cheap carbs like maltodextrin. So my recommendation is grab a good quality whey protein, get a carb powder if you want it, have it intra-workout, and don't just smash carbs at all time of the day. Keep it tactical. And also, why do I keep grabbing this? And also too, a lot of other products like test boosters and all these other like natural test boosters and stuff like that, I'm not a fan of them. I don't really think they do anything unless your testosterone is unnaturally low. So you can address that by other means instead of having Tribulus or whatever it is. So there's a reason why your test is low. It might be because you've been dieting for too long. It might be because you're not getting enough sleep, you're stressed, you're not recovering enough, whatever it is. And I would recommend you guys address those underlying factors. And they're very expensive. So I wouldn't waste any money on that, to be honest. But I would just suggest basically the basics of supplements because they're gonna help you in their own way, but they're not gonna do the job for you. And that brings me to my final point, which is recovery. So a lot of people will address every other cause or whatever it is before they even think about their own recovery. And this is crucial. So guys, you need to actually evaluate how you are right now. How do you feel during your workouts? How are you sleeping? Are you stressed during the day? Are there things you can do to help with that? So like meditation, like Calm app is amazing. Doing things like just getting to bed early, having a good nighttime routine. These may seem really like pussy and you wouldn't want to hear them as like a kid trying to gain muscle, but they are so helpful and they will make a massive difference if you're getting your 8 hours of sleep. A lot of people like to say, nah, sleep when I'm dead, I don't like to sleep. It's not cool to sleep. And they'll get like 5 hours a day and they will just feel and train and recover like shit. So if you're not recovering well enough, you cannot possibly do all the things that we've said. You can't build muscle, you can't overload in the gym, you can't increase your training intensity. You're gonna build more fat. If you have a lot of cortisol running through your system from stress, you're gonna build a lot more fat than you are muscle. And we don't want that. So address your recovery, guys. Now to sum up all of these points here, I'm gonna leave you with a few questions that you can ask yourself and basically get a bit of an evaluation going. So the first one, are you tracking your calories? Do you know how much you're eating and are you tracking your weight and you are seeing what your body's doing? A lot of people who don't understand what is going on and they just say, I can't gain weight. And they haven't tried, they haven't actually given it enough thought. So are you tracking your calories and are you tracking your weight? Are you training hard enough? Is it actually intense? Are you resting and then giving every set a lot of intensity and with intent as well? Like, are you actually training hard enough? Not just running around in between sets, but are you giving it your all every single set? Are you training well enough? Now this is form. Are you actually contracting the muscle you want to squeeze? Are you giving it enough time and attention? Are you stretching it? Or are you just going in there and just going and just getting through the motions? Are you actually training well enough? Are you getting enough sleep? Do you have a nighttime routine that you follow every day? Are you feeling stressed during the day? Is there something you can do to fix that? There is, obviously, but you need to adapt it to your lifestyle. And how do you feel on a daily basis? How do you feel in the gym? How do you feel outside the gym? Really dig deep on these things, guys, and address why. Because this is what it's like if you were gonna speak to a professional or somebody who is an expert. Like if I was gonna give you guys advice personally, if you were gonna contact me, these are the things that I'd ask you. I'd be like, okay, so, and this is what I say to all my clients as well. When they come to me with issues, these are the questions that they'll get. How are you sleeping? What's your recovery like? Are you tracking the calories? You're being consistent? All of these things. So this is one way for you guys to give yourself basically a self-evaluation of where you're at. And then be honest with yourself and figure out, okay, well, am I eating enough? Should I be training harder? Should I be training better? Do I need more help? Do I need to sign up to Zac's coaching program and have him do all the work for me? Little plug there, but seriously guys, if you want that, if you do want my help, it is in the description. You guys can sign up. No stress otherwise, but we have about 6,000 people so far that have absolutely loved it. And now I want to get into a few recipes that we're going to cook. So these are calorie dense, they taste awesome, and they will make gaining weight a lot easier if you struggle to get the calories in. So let's get into it.
The first recipe is a smoothie. So you're going to need 3 dates, 1 banana, a tablespoon of peanut butter, 400 ml of milk, 2 scoops of protein, and half a cup of oats. Throw everything into the blender and blend it. Now this has over 1,000 calories with 76 grams of protein, 31 grams of fat, and 135 grams of carbs. The perfect high calorie smoothie. Next up, we have burger patties with sweet potato fries. For this, you're gonna need 250 grams of beef mince, made into patties, and then seasoned with salt. Pan fry these until cooked, and then add some cheese and let it melt. You're then going to need 400 grams of sweet potato, diced and then covered in around 30 ml of oil. Oven bake this for around 25 minutes or until it's lost a lot of its weight. Remember, we don't want volume here. When you're done, you can add some sauces and any green vegetables. I like to use some Kewpie mayo and barbecue sauce. Now this meal has over 1,400 calories, 70 grams of protein, 85 grams of fat, and 97 grams of carbs. Finally, to finish, we have a salmon and rice bowl. Salmon is loaded with omega-3s, which are essential for good health, so I'd recommend having salmon at least a few times per week. So start by lightly seasoning the salmon with salt and pepper, and oven baking it for 15 minutes. Add 3 eggs to 250 grams of cooked rice, and stir until combined. Add a splash of soy sauce into this too. Now on a hot pan, add around 10 grams of butter, and stir fry your egg rice. Serve with your choice of vegetables and sauces. Once again, I like to use Kewpie mayonnaise and a sweet soy sauce. This meal has over 1,000 calories, 65 grams of protein, 42 grams of fat, and 84 grams of carbs.
So guys, that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed this and took something out of it. Leave something in the comments if you have any questions or whatever, but I feel like I covered a lot in this video. I mean, but there's always something I missed. But that is it from me, and you guys definitely know what to do. Stay massive. Or get massive first, then stay there.
I got a fresh cut in the denims, all these sexy jeans in my section, and slide into your DMs in the PM and the AM, then I slide into your feelings when you see just what I'm saying.